In this video, I will tell you how to create nonlinear dialogues so that your bot could talk like a human. I will tell you rules how to structure your schemes in the builder to add intents, answers, and forms. All examples I will show will be based on our Odus assistant that is developed and launched for our Odus website. This is an example of a simple linear dialogue. To create a simple linear dialogue, you need to add a new key intent and then to add an answer for it, and then to add a new intent again. So a simple linear dialogue is a consequence of intents, answers, and forms followed by one another. The difference between a key intent and a simple intent is that the key intent is available for the user always. The simple intent is available for the user only in this specific scenario of the dialogue when the user enters this scenario with a key intent. This is the example of a simple non-linear dialogue. The difference between the previous dialogue is that at one point there are two options how a user can react to an answer. And now I will tell you rules how to create nonlinear dialogues and stories. The rule number 1 is that there must be no contradictions in meanings of intents and answers you use in your dialogues. This means that one unique intent must be placed in only one place in the dialogue and cannot lead to two different answers or forms with different meanings. For example, you can see two examples here. In the left example, you can see two key intents with the same title that lead to two different answers. In the left example, you can also see the dialogue that has two similar, simple intents with the question, "How are you?" But the answers to this question are different and have two contradictory meanings, bad and good. This will also confuse artificial intelligence. In general, the right way to create a dialogue is like this: to have an intent with a single meaning and to have a single answer to this intent. The rule number 2 here is that your story must be logical and must have a storyline. Again, you can see two examples here. The storyline in the left example is good and generally, but it means that the only entrance point to this scenario is the key intent with the name greeting. If a user asks a question, for example, "How are you?" or "Who you are?" he won't be transferred to this scenario by the artificial intelligence. The right way to cover all entrance points for different dialogues is to use the example on the bottom of the slide. You should create 3 small dialogues with 3 key intents that could be entrance points for all the scenarios you can see on the slide. This means that the user can type any of these questions or phrases from key intents greeting, "How are you?" or "Who you are?" and he will definitely get the response. The right structure of the dialogue to cover all possible variants of phrases the user can ask is like this. You can see 3 scenarios here with 3 different key intents. The rule number 3 is that we strongly advise you to project stories of your conversations so that you could analyze the outcome of the dialogue. For example, you know that your customer can buy a product or can decline this idea in the end of the conversation with your chatbot. Of course, you may want to know reasons why the outcome is of this nature, to buy or not to buy. Just think about this. Think about your customer and structure the dialogue to use data about your customers in the best way. The rule number 4 is that each story must have an ending. You can see that in the left example, the dialogue is structured as a cycle. This means that the artificial intelligence will be confused and could not finish chatting with the user because there is no the end point of the dialogue. In the right example, you can see that the dialog has the certain end. This means that your chatbot could lead the customer to the end of the dialog in a very strategic and structured way. I want to add also that structuring your dialog, you can add some blocks of answers, consequently, one followed by another. In this case, your chatbot will send all these answers to a user consequently. I want to say first that if you have two or more stories that have one common part, then you don't need to develop this part for every single story. You can connect all these stories into one at some moment structuring your dialogue. For example, have a look at this story. You can see that there are three key intents here that are the entrance points for three different scenarios. But at some point on the dialogue, they lead to one intent that merges them all together. And then this intent leads to the form that is the exit of the dialogue. Let's have a look again. Three key intents. Each of key intent has the separate storyline, and then they merge here. In the next video, we will talk about adding forms and types of messages from your chatbot.